championship is going to take place on November 20th. It's going to be at Lynn Family Stadium here in Louisville, Kentucky. Kickoff is at 12 noon Eastern. There's pregame coverage that is going to begin at 11:30 a.m. on Paramount Plus with former United States Women's National Team midfielder Lori Lindsay and Orlando Pride stars Ali Krieger and Ashlyn Harris. The game will air on CBS and internationally on Twitch. The championship game was actually initially slated for Portland, Oregon, but was moved to Louisville after players raised issues and concerns about the 9 a.m. local start time on the West Coast as a result of the current TV window on CBS. So in October, the NWSL and the NWSL Players Association announced a venue change in a joint statement, and now here we are in the lovely city of Louisville.
It's amazing how we got here, but power to the players for sticking up with that. And hey, Louisville wasn't even in it at that point, and they made a bid for it, and hosting at Lynn Family Stadium, fantastic. Now Chicago and Washington, they get to face off. It's pretty exciting stuff happening here.
Yeah, for sure. You know what, Lisa? I don't think it's unfair to say that this perhaps isn't the championship final that people were expecting. Right? There was perhaps some narratives or some storylines already heading into the championship final as the playoffs kind of kicked off in this expanded format with a quarterfinal round kicking things off and then the semifinal round. And once you kind of got to those final four, right, and you saw Portland Thorns and OL Reign and Spirit and Chicago Red Stars in there was a lot of like, oh, what if the 1 and 2 seed win at it, right? And then it's Thorns and OL Reign and the Cascadia rivalry and et cetera, right? All that kind of exciting stuff. But I think we still have a very, very exciting final in front of us. This is going to be the first time that neither the number 1 or the number 2 seed has reached the NWSL final. And whatever happens on Saturday, the league will have a new champion in what's been many, many years. It's either been Portland Thorns or North Carolina Courage over the last 4 to 5 years. And that's not going to happen in 2021. And on top of that, whoever wins on Saturday, it'll be the first ever NWSL league title for either Washington or Chicago. So there's some exciting things heading into this championship final. And I'm excited for us to dive deep into this one.
I think that's probably one of the most exciting things, that history will be made because either Chicago will win or Washington, and it'll be the first time they bring home a trophy to their club. So they meet in the final, Chicago and Washington, but this will be their 4th meeting in this season throughout the regular season, just to take a trip down memory lane. We spoke with Andy Sullivan, who we asked her about the matchup between Spirit and Chicago, and she said, yeah, we played them in a quick burst. And that's pretty true. It happened throughout the summer. So June 19th was the first meeting between the Red Stars and the Spirit. It was a tie at that point, 1-1. July 2nd, Chicago won 1-0. And then August 1st, Chicago won again 3-1. So Washington has never beaten Chicago this season. And Chicago has come out 3 unbeaten against the Spirit. But between June 19th and August 1st and those 3 matches that happened, only 1 shutout in that time frame in the meeting on July 2nd, which I think is pretty important to note because these teams score goals and they can get on the board, which makes for hopefully an exciting final match on Saturday. And the other really important stat that sticks out from these 3 initial meetings that these teams had earlier this season is that 2 of the goals for Chicago came from penalty kicks. 1 in the tie on June 19th. Morgan Gautral put the penalty kick away in stoppage time at the end of regulation. And then on August 1st, it was another Morgan Gautral penalty kick that happened around the 80th minute towards the end of that match to really seal the deal for Chicago in that 3-1 win. Then on July 2nd, it was an own goal from Washington that gave Chicago the win. So yes, Chicago has technically gone unbeaten 3 for 3 against Chicago this year, but 2 goals off penalty kicks and 1 off of an own goal to get the win. Pretty interesting. As Andy Sullivan alluded to, at that point in the season, Washington was still going through a lot of drama off the field and a lot of turmoil and a lot of adversity at that point in the season. Richie Burke was still coaching this squad. Chris Ward hadn't stepped in yet. And since Chris Ward has stepped in as the coach for Washington Spirit. He's done a tremendous job with the squad. The toxic energy is mostly gone from that club. They've really turned a corner, and we've seen that. The last 8 games for Washington have gone unbeaten streak for them, which is
Yeah.
huge. That's a lot of games, especially in the final stretch of the season where tensions are really high. There's a lot of momentum going into these games and then into the quarterfinals, semifinals, and now heading into the final. So I think that just taking a look at the history between these two teams, yes, on paper, Chicago got the best of Washington 3 times, but Washington really got unlucky with 2 penalty kicks and then an own goal, which that was the point in the season where Chicago was getting a lot of wins off own goals. And hey, it's a way to win a game. Why not? You're putting pressure on your opponent's defense. And I like that. But I just thought that was like pretty interesting. And we needed to start the conversation there, looking at the history.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that at all. I think it's important that you're bringing up some of the player interviews that we had leading into this championship final on attacking third. I mean, because even on the Red Star side of things, when we spoke to Sarah Waldmo, she alluded to that as well, and sort of how ultimately in the playoff in a big game like this, those results don't really matter
Mhm.
anymore. There's a bit of a reset button that is hit going into this type of match, and that when they did play the Spirit in those fixtures, it was a sort of a different look type of Spirit. They did not face the Spirit in sort of this current form that they are in during the playoffs and now heading into the championship final. They had not gone up against what is the Chris Ward version of the Spirit. So I think it's important to sort of know the interviews that we had with these players and sort of their perspectives, right, heading in to this championship final. But for the Spirit, I mean, even if we are sort of coming at this ourselves, covering the game, wiping the slate clean, maybe without the histories, and looking at just the current forms of these teams. Maybe let's lean in a little bit to the Spirit. They're considered the home side in this one as the third ranked team. Uh, I think when you're looking at this roster, when we're looking at it on paper, Lisa, the biggest thing that probably stands out for many folks is the attacking core of this team, this sort of front line that has been able to sort of post up and put up these kind of highlight real type of moments and goal scoring for the team this year, whether it was somebody like Ashley Hatch, the 2021 Golden Boot winner, racking up her 10 goals and doing it like very impressive, like coming like very even, so scoring with both her left and her right foot, goals on headers, and then obviously the rookie candidate in Trinity Rodman and putting together her very very impressive season. And then it's almost like you have these two big storylines, right? The Golden Boot winner, the rookie of the year candidate, and it's hard to imagine, but maybe almost somebody like Ashley Sanchez kind of got like became an afterthought, maybe. And that's so weird to even say because that's not necessarily true, but Ashley Sanchez put up a great season herself alongside her attacking counterparts, right? So we're talking about putting up assists, putting up goals of her own. And as we look into just this playoff window for the Spirit, Sanchez with that ridiculous game winner, a type of floater that just drifted into the net to sort of punch their ticket through to the championship final. So again, like looking at paper on this Spirit squad, I think people's eyes first go and circle that sort of attacking front line for the Spirit in this one.
How can they not? I mean, that it's a younger group up top between Sanchez and Rodman. Of course, has a little bit more experience than them, especially in the league. But for having young players be so influential on the game and be your core attacking personnel is really huge. And despite everything that the Spirit has been through this season off the pitch and then having to forfeit 2 matches in September. Speaking of, that's the last time that the Spirit has lost, when they had to forfeit a game due to COVID protocol. So going through all that adversity and then still leaning on these young players to be the attacking presence and to be the attacking force, I think it shows a lot about how strong they are. How much they lean on each other and how well they've gotten as a group and as a unit in the attacking end, especially when they rotate different players in. But Ashley Sanchez, one of the players that maybe has been has a little bit of a shadow over her just because she's playing alongside probably one of the best rookies that we've seen in a long time in Trinity Rodman and Golden Boot winner Ashley Hatch. And then there's Sanchez, who is still such a force to be reckoned with and such a powerful forward. She's very good because she has so many different elements to her game. She can play that attacking central midfielder and split the seams and get those final third passes connecting, get assists on the board. But she can also play a forward role as well. That's very dangerous, receiving the ball, turning, dribbling at defenders with speed and with pace and with good change of direction, which makes it really difficult to defend her. And then, as you mentioned, her super cheeky goal in the semifinals against OL Reign, it's that creativity in her brain that we've seen unlock throughout this season. And because of that, it's been really dangerous. But this team is in their match against OL Reign. I think we have to take pieces of that. And bring it into this final because they went down first. And as we asked Andy Sullivan about it in our interview, she was like, I didn't even care. I knew we were going to come back and score more and win. It was just a matter of when. She said, I'm glad it happened so early in the game because there was time to get another goal back. And I think that mindset on a team means everything because they can say, oh, there's still 80 minutes left. Fine, we can do this. There's still 5 minutes left. We can do this. That's fine. That's plenty of time. All we need is 30 seconds to get the ball down the field and score. But in the match against OL Reign, their defensive efforts stemming from Aubrey Bledsoe in goal were phenomenal. Frankly, that's one thing that really stood out to me in this type of match because a team like OL Reign, they can send a lot of crosses in and they can put a lot of pressure on and they can get a lot of shots on frame 23 in that match and still have so many saves happening for Aubrey Bledsoe, which is necessary. So for this match going up against Chicago, I think Washington needs to be a little more careful in being exposed defensively because Chicago is a team that can quickly transition and quickly turn on the jets and get goals in behind. With Washington, score first, I think will be the name of their game. If they can score first and score a second one, it'll help them and help their confidence throughout the match. Whereas if they go down early, I think it could be a different game for them. And that's kind of where I'm going to sit because I don't want to jump into Chicago too much right now. But for Washington, they have to score first, get on the board first, and then that will kind of set the tone of the game for the Spirit and how they can go forward with that. They've found rhythm in their back line with who they're starting with O'Hara, Sonnet, Staub, and McGrady on the outside. And because of that stability that they have in the back line, we've seen more consistent play defensively out of them and less mishaps. So I don't foresee 2 penalty kicks happening in this match. You never know, though. But I think that we've seen smarter plays because of that. Earlier in the season, not so smart defending, a lot of penalty kicks given up, a lot of yellow cards against Chicago specifically, 3 in one match earlier this season when they played. But I think Washington as a unit has become smarter with the experience that they've been given over the last few matches. So I don't foresee those defensive mental lapses happening in this game against Chicago.
I mean, we'll see. This is the game. It's the game for the Spirit, and that's one of the things I think alongside, sort of laying out the groundwork, right? The blueprint that we think that they should be trying to follow in this championship final. I'm not in disagreement that I think that would be a good game plan for them. Try to get one and extend the lead if they can a little bit. Um, but we'll see what happens. I think another thing that people are also looking at when they're maybe circling that front line and or maybe even circling some pieces on that back line is just so the youth, right, of
Mhm.
this team, perhaps the inexperience of not having made their arrival to this point, that this is the first time for this team in a long time. And the last time that the Spirit were in the championship final was back in 2016. And the only member of that roster back in 2016 was Tori Huster, and she is unavailable for this team due to injury that she sustained very early in the playoff picture here with the team. So we will see what happens. We will see where the team leans on in terms of the leadership, right, for sort of having to dig deep in these big moments. And I'm excited to see it. I think when you get a young, quick team like this in a final, that there's always potential for a lot of fun, right? And I think that that's ultimately what we're going to be looking for as well on Saturday. But